Welcome to Sew and Tell, where sewists from fashion theater and indie sewing bring their different perspectives to the hottest topics in the sewing community. I'm Meg Healy.
I'm Amanda Carestio.
And I'm Kate Zaynard. Today on the podcast, we're talking about travel sewing, how you can sew on the go, pack your machine, and make fun stories along the way. Then we'll share our SewJo and read listener comments. But before we get started, how's everybody doing today?
Doing okay. I'm in my sewing space. I'm completely surrounded by mess and chaos because I am prepping for our next sew-along. But I'm okay with it. It's inspiring. Mess can sometimes lead to good things, right?
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Before we recorded, Amanda shared that she was late night sewing. And I remember I was looking at my Instagram stories this morning. It was like 7 hours ago. You posted like cutting something out. I was like, that's late. And you shared you were sewing French seams. I was like, oh, midnight French seams do not.
It was late night French seams with drapey fabric. Like, what was I thinking? But it actually, I don't know. I haven't stayed up late sewing like that in a while. It was kind of nice. It was quiet. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but I am definitely dragging a little bit today. Totally worth it. Worth it.
For sure. Well, I know you guys both saw it on Instagram, but I got to make shoes this weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, they're so
amazing.
Cool.
Aren't they great? I love them so much. I was thinking about you when I did those toes, Meg. Those lime green shiny toes. Yeah.
Oh, I just
so cool.
I just can't wrap my head around making shoes yet. Like, I just think it's so amazing. It's just so cool.
The workshop is it's so good because you really just they just take you through it. It was a single day workshop. We dyed our own leather. They got this really cool die cut machine, so you don't have to cut out your own pieces. They just cut them out on the die cut like leather pieces. It's so cool. And and they just take you through it step by step. And it's the sewing itself is really pretty basic, easy sewing if you're familiar with a sewing machine. And their machines are really good. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Cool. Next time that happens and you go and you need more me-made shoes, please let me know and I want to go do it with you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was sitting here thinking if Meg's going to be in town for the Sewcation.
I was just thinking that. I was like, can we, because I'm going to stay like a couple days after the Sewcation to do some filming, so I'll be around. And I was like, I want to do this.
Yes.
And it would be so fun if we could all do it together.
Yeah, it really would be. I was actually thinking while I was there, I was like, oh, we should have planned this into the Sewcation. Probably
next time.
Yeah, I don't know if we could have everybody do it, but maybe as a like special side trip or something. Yeah.
I feel like that's like the final frontier. That's just, it boggles my mind. But like shoemaking, on the list. 100%.
So much fun. And this time I did it with my husband and he made the slickest pair of shoes. He had this like shiny blue leather that somebody gave him like 20 years ago. And he's always been trying to figure out something to do with it. So he did just like the back of the heel and the lacing facings in that. And then everything else he just did black. And he just dyed layer after layer after layer and got this gorgeous, super smooth, almost patent leather black. And they are so sharp. They look amazing. I'm so proud of him.
I want to see pictures of his shoes as well. Did you post those?
I did not. But he is, I believe he's on Instagram at Zaynard, and I think he's got like all of 3 pictures on there, but they include the shoes.
Okay, good.
One of them is definitely needs to be the shoes.
Yeah, that's a big moment in life.
But yeah, and, I'll grab a picture and send it over. We could put it on the show notes.
Mm-hmm. Please do.
Yeah. Like I was just thinking, what a cute thing. Like Valentine's Day is coming up. It's like, well, I hate, all the pressure to give like gifts, but doing something like that together with your partner would be so cute. Now I'm just thinking of like things that I think Julian would totally make his own shoes. I mean, he can build things with wood. Why can't he, build shoes? And he loves shoes too. Oh, that's such a good idea. And I want to do it with you guys too.
All the shoes, all the time. I love it.
I'm totally gonna look up and see. I don't think they have the schedule out for April yet, but the cool thing is that, you can get in touch with them and they're willing to like put together special requests. So
Ooh.
So we might be able to be like, okay, this is when Meg's still here. This is what we can do.
Uh-huh. Well, I am in 100%. Shall we jump into our main segment?
Yeah, we should talk shoe sewing.
But kind of related because it's, related to classes and learning and, it's a gentle segue, but let's jump in talking about travel sewing. And I think this segment is definitely dedicated to my own wishful thinking because I need to travel, and thankfully we have our staycation coming up, so that's definitely on the mind. We're going to talk about travel and sewing from a variety of perspectives. So let's jump in. And my first question is a big one. Do you think sewing is a good travel hobby or no?
I think it's tough unless you're specifically going somewhere where there is a machine that you can access. But there are so many tools, and I don't know about you guys, but I get really, really tied to my tools.
To your shoes?
Sorry, that was totally a Freudian slip. I'm so tied to my shoes. No, but like
they are tied to you.
My scissors and my very specific favorite kind of marking tools, and all of those little things. It's hard to leave it behind and feel like you're being effective. It just gets harder when you're not using your own stuff. Or you haul your own stuff, and that's a whole other kettle of fish, fabric. I don't know, something.
I'm gonna give sewing a B- for traveling.
Yeah,
because I feel like we did have that article in Sew News with Alexis Bailey, and I believe it's called Fiber and Cloth. And if it is, I will link to is that what it's called? Let me make sure. She wrote an article for us about hand sewing garments, and it was the starting place was really that she had been traveling and she wasn't able to bring her stuff with her, and then she thought about the possibilities of hand sewing garments. So she developed kits and kind of tutorials for how to approach things from a hand sewing perspective, and it was really pretty intriguing. It is Fiber and Cloth Studio if you want to check it out. But that had not occurred to me at all. Like hand sewing garments was not really on my radar. But I think like if you're maybe other kinds of sewing is good for travel, garment sewing is tricky. I was even thinking like maybe quilting is even better. Like just from like the piecing perspective, if you're working on smaller pieces and you can bring a small machine that is good for travel. But yeah, so I'm sticking with a solid B-.
I've definitely seen some bag kits, and they already have all the holes like pre-punched, and they come with a needle and thread. You could totally sew a bag while traveling for sure. But when I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and I followed Jessica Schott. I believe we've had her as a guest spot before. She's a singer ambassador, and she was showing this. I don't know if it's a new singer product, I assume, but it's this tiny little singer, maybe about like 10 inches long, and she was lifting it with one hand. Like I'm sure it does the simple stitches, but a lot of I know trains and things like that have desks, and they have outlets that you plug a computer in. I just wouldn't that be so funny? Like people would be hating me. Like
yes, they would. Did y'all see that meme? It was a couple of months ago of like somebody sewing on an airplane. They had like let the
Oh, really?
I don't know if it was actually real, but it was kind of hilarious. I got to play with that machine. We did a little sneak peek for them. It is like 5.5 pounds.
Wow.
Like it's like smaller than a puppy. It is and I did it. I think it's actually their mending machine, but you can do a lot of kind of like lighter weight fabrics and kind of lightweight sewing on it. But seriously, like that thing is tiny. Like there's no reason you wouldn't just go ahead and put that in your suitcase.
I know. Yeah, right. I was thinking more like actually like spending the time sewing as I travel because I get so bored and fidgety. I can't sleep on any form of transportation, but I would definitely get the same looks. I made the mistake of bringing hard-boiled eggs as a snack on a plane. And the looks that I got would be probably similar to if I just started up a machine.
Exactly. Just I think we should all do it. Just random acts of travel sewing.
Yes. Yeah, but I could so see me just throwing that in the suitcase. And then, if you're in a hotel, it's easy. You could bring that out and you could bring a few little things if you just want to, pass some time, or if you feel like you're going to be, doing a lot of activity where there could be seam splittage, you could then trade in your...
Absolutely.
But I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, that machine is amazing.
Well, I have a confession, and I many years ago I bought like a mini sewing machine, and it is terrible. It is so bad. It barely works. And I was like, this has disappointed me terribly. But it's nice to know that there's a version out there that I assume works decently. Amanda?
Yeah. And I have my daughter's machine. It's like a smaller version. It's not a toy sewing machine. I think we've gotten my kids like various toy sewing machines in the past, or they've gotten them from friends, and like like there's nothing you can really do with those. But the one that I have for my daughter is actually, it's pretty strong. Like it will sew through some fabric. It's always, it's a bit different if you're used to using a full-size machine with all of your stitches and all of that. But, really, if you wanted to do some simple projects, I feel like you can get pretty far with those little machines. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about when machine is not an option. I know that, Meg, you have a sorted history and feelings about hand sewing, but sometimes hand sewing is a nice option. I've done some simple embroidery and cross stitch while traveling. I don't know. I kind of like, I like to have something to do with my hands. I like that I can kind of like focus on that and zone out, especially if like you're having a stressful travel experience, which often happens. And it's just a little bit more tactile. So I'm a fan.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely brought a jacket that I've made. I think it was to a sew along once, and I was just so fed up with prepping the samples. So I left all the jacket lining hem attachments for when I was traveling, just kind of lulls, while traveling. And it's just, something to pass the time, waiting for boarding or things like that. And you just put on an audiobook and it just feels different when you're in your studio and you're like, I could be on my machine. I could be doing so many other things. But if I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, might as well do an annoying task like hand stitch the lining to a jacket. And then you're all the way in the sleeves and all that stuff. But but I've definitely done cross stitch before while traveling. I think that's super travel friendly and fun for sure.
Yeah, I got in trouble at the airport security once. In 1992, long before the heavy TSA stuff, we went to Hawaii, and I was big into cross stitch at the time, so I took a cross stitch project, including actually probably this pair of scissors right here to snip my threads with, and they stopped me because the blades were. It turns out that they were like 1/8 of an inch smaller than the limit at the time, but I almost got them confiscated because I didn't realize there was a scissor size limit. Yeah. But yesterday I had a meeting at a friend's house, and I took some cross stitch with me. It's good for me because it keeps it allows me to focus my brain if my hands are busy.
What are your hilarious stories about lugging your sewing machine around for travel? Because I have one, and I was prepping for this episode, and I could not believe that I hadn't shared this story before. And maybe stop me if I have. Actually, don't stop me. Just let me know later. But I took my sewing machine on my honeymoon, and like, so romantic, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe have I shared that before?
I don't think so.
I don't
I feel
think
like
so,
I would
no.
remember that.
How did I skip this important moment in my sewing life? So our honeymoon, to be fair, was like 2 years after our wedding. And we went to the beach for a week. And I think it was in August. And when you go to the beach in North Carolina, like at any time, like if you're going to be there for any number of days, it's probably going to rain. So that's what I thought. Like, I'll just bring this for my downtime. I don't think we had a TV and it was before like hardcore Netflix days and stuff like that. So I took it for entertainment. My husband was definitely like, why are you bringing that? But sure enough, it rained, and I worked on this table runner, and I still have the table runner. And I have to say, like, kind of like when you buy fabric on a trip, and then all of your trip memories are kind of associated with that fabric. All of my memories of that trip are associated with this little project that I made. And it was a little pieced table runner. And I still have it, and it's special to me. But that was definitely like, I think we still have photos of like the backseat of our car, and like, here's all our beach stuff. And then like, here's my sewing machine, like right on top. And, I've been tempted at other times, but I think I don't think it really makes sense, unless you are going to spend, a number of days and you think you might have some downtime. And, like, if that is your preferred way of having downtime, then like, why not bring it on vacation with you,
Yeah.
We did do a story a few years ago too for Sew News. I can't remember who wrote it. I'll see if I can dig it up, about like a lot of folks, when I went to campgrounds with my mom in her RV, like a lot of people in RVs have sewing machine setups. A lot of quilters do that. It's not, you don't have a ton of room, so piecing is probably still a really great option for that. But I definitely, and I have a few people that I follow on Instagram who have kind of like a van life setup, and they have a little spot for their sewing machine. And then that's just kind of, maybe one day when I grow up, I will have that.
What did he do while you sewed?
I think he slept.
That would be, Julian's a huge sleeper. I feel like I that's something I would do. And because sometimes I'm like, come on, like let's do something. Like, okay, you just want to sleep? All right, I'll sew.
And it was like, it was a beach trip. It wasn't like there was nothing to do. We were in the Outer Banks. Like, it's like you either hang out on the beach, and if it's raining, you're inside doing nothing. Yeah. So I feel really okay about it. But like, I can't believe that I took my sewing machine on my honeymoon. It has not come up before. Like, how have I not shared that story?
Why wouldn't, like, sewing on a beach? Like, that sounds amazing.
It does. You're right.
It's
in my world, travel is always so like carefully planned with all of this stuff you have to do that, you know, having that downtime is, I mean, I wouldn't ever expect it, but yeah, that sounds really nice.
Yeah, on my to-do list, I've never gone to like an all-inclusive resort. I've always wanted to go, but I would just think 7 days of I'm not a reader. I don't read books. I listen to books, and I could so see myself like packing up one of those tiny machines and just the experience of just like sewing, you know, in a resort. I would totally do that. But Julian's laying on, the chaise lounge, and, maybe I'll ask for an extension cord poolside. I'll just have to make sure not to get too close
please
to
don't.
But I never thought about that until now. Like you sharing your story of bringing it and sewing near the beach. I just think that would be such a great way to spend a vacation for me instead of just, I don't know, at a resort. That would be So fun. I never thought about that before.
I think that says something about our ability to chill, Meg, maybe. And maybe we should work on that, but also maybe not. All right. One question, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but do you have a dedicated travel sewing machine? My story for this is that the machine I use all the time, I've had since 2011, and it was a big purchase for me at the time. I think now it's like the high end of entry level machines is pretty much, so it's not super fancy. It doesn't have embroidery capacity or anything like that. But I was so super happy to get this machine. And I saved and saved and saved and then bought it. And then one of my sewing friends who was just in a different place in her life was like, oh, how do you like that machine? I'm considering it for my travel machine. And I was like, it just felt like she had just like given me the biggest machine put down. Because that was going to be like her backup, like travel machine. But I'm over it now. I'm not bitter anymore. But I do, it's not a lightweight machine, but it's also not a huge machine. And as I mentioned, I think I'd probably try to give my daughter's little sewing machine a go if I were to take one with me when I travel. But a lot of people have dedicated machines.
Yeah, I do not. I have that little tiny one that is no good. And that's all I've got.
Yeah. What about you, Meg? You just have a lot of machines.
Yeah, no, they're all too big and heavy.
Yeah.
I would rather just bring more shoes and just
Yeah.
Oh, the shoe shame I've been getting in my new house about where are all Meg's shoes gonna go? And so I have a dedicated wardrobe in our garage that's all my shoes, and because when you photograph me maids, sometimes I like to change up my shoes sometimes. I'm always wearing the same shoes and stuff like that. But yeah, so always traveling with shoes they take up so much space. So I feel I don't know. So I would bring
like shoes or sewing machine.
Yeah. That's why it'd be good for a resort, because you would wear flip-flops or something. So those are very nice and compact. So I think now I'm wanting that tiny Singer machine. It's just seeming like so appealing.
I was literally just looking it up while you were talking.
Oh, you were? Yeah,
I just want us to all get one and like be various places sewing in public on our sewing machines.
What if we all collectively have one, and it's like the traveling, like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. It's like the traveling sewing machine, and then we add like stickers to it, like where we went and sewed with it, and it could be, we could take turns. The next one would ship it to where the next person is traveling and sewing. Oh, that would be so fun!
I think we can start it in Boulder.
Right? Good. Oh yeah, and we had little stickers, and that would be so cute. I also so I don't have to store another machine here.
Yeah. Well, apparently it's tiny, so
that is true. That is true. But yeah, maybe if there is more of these like fun sewing retreats, maybe it is not a bad idea to get a travel sewing machine. I mean, I love shopping, so if I could talk myself into buying anything new, I'm pretty good at it. Yeah. Oh, I definitely need this.
And if you need backup, I can help. I can help with that. Let's talk about kind of generally if you've traveled for sewing and what your experience has been if you can't bring your own machine. So you're using a new to you machine. Meg, why don't you kick us off?
Well, the only really travel I do for sewing, there is a machine there when I do film trips, but literally my suitcase is just full of rulers. I had to get a special like big suitcase to fit like huge L squares, and I have to bring all the things, all the film samples and scissors and pins and cut up things and all the rulers. So, but then it is fun trying a new machine. I always think that's fun too. So, yeah.
Yeah. When we do sew-alongs, we use machines provided by our sponsors. So we don't always, it sometimes changes. We don't always know what it's going to be going in. But over the years, I haven't minded that quite as much. Like there are little quirks here and there, but I think in general, it's been good to sew on a variety of machines just to kind of like learn a little bit about them. And also I feel like it's going to prepare me for that day when, gosh, it's going to happen. Like my machine is going to break and I'm going to need a new machine. And maybe I won't feel quite as stressed out about, having to switch to something else. But I will say I haven't done a ton of traveling for sewing. But I've gone to Quilt Market and Quilt Festival quite a number of times in my kind of professional positions through the years. And I took classes at Quilt Festival and those were so fun. But there was this one class in particular and I will never forget it. We did sashiko by machine and it wasn't one of the specialty sashiko machines. It was just a regular sewing machine. And the trick was that you slowed the speed way down. The bobbin thread matched the fabric color and the top was a contrast thread. So you got those really nice defined stitches. You traced your panel onto the fabric and then you were like going around curves, just going around curves really slowly. And that class was so hard because sewing around little teeny tiny curves in general is tricky, but doing it on a machine that you weren't like super familiar with was just a different level of challenge. So, and it turned out great. I didn't hate the machine. I loved the class. I still have my samples. I haven't done anything with them yet, but I remember that. And it's kind of like, maybe it depends on what kind of class you're taking. Like if you're taking this really intense technique class, then the machine is definitely going to play a big role. But if you're just for general sewing, I don't know. I like to hop around on machine types.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, I've sewn on so many different machines for the sew-alongs, and I've gone to the American Sewing Guild conference a couple of times. Common Thread, which is a baby lock thing. I've gone to I don't think I actually sewed anything at Osquey, but between all of those things.
No, we did. Remember we did that relay, Kate?
No, the challenge.
Oh, right. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I sewed a lot at Osquey. Okay, so anyway, the point is at this point, totally. So I've sewn on so many different sewing machines over the years that one of the benefits to that is that I almost always feel comfortable sitting down at a machine and just being like, oh, this is going to work like this. The only time I get really weirded out is if it has settings that I'm not used to, like automatically putting down the needle or something when you start to step on the pedal, or something I'm just not expecting. Or when they decided to get a little fancy with the standard way things work, the Husqvarna Viking Epic that we had in the studio for a while. The bobbin winder was so weird. And luckily it had instructions programmed into the machine and it would just tell you how to do it. But so most of the time I'm just yeah, sure. This is fine. I basically know how to work a sewing machine. And that's very comforting for me because, it may be slightly uncomfortable. It takes a little bit of a learning curve, but I know how to make them work. But while we're talking about this specific subject, I do have one slightly funny story about traveling back from one of the American Sewing Guild conferences. I did not take a sewing machine, but I tried to take everything else I could think of that I might need. So I had myself a little sewing kit with, needles and thread and all that sort of stuff. But I also took a craft iron, like a mini iron, because, travel iron. And then going out, it was fine. But then when I was going through security on the way back, they're like, there's something weird in your luggage. And I'm sitting there I was so careful to make sure that I had such small bladed scissors. I was there can't
after the first time, right?
Yeah, after the first time. Oh my gosh, I did the research. I figured out exactly. I had things that were marked on them that they were TSA approved for the snips,
Wow.
all of this stuff. And I'm like, what could it be? What could it be? Well, it turned out that it was the iron, that maybe it was just the way it was facing or something, but they just saw this big metal, well, not that big, but this metal thing in the middle of my luggage. And so they had to open it up and see what it was. And basically everybody was laughing about it. Once they got a look at it, they're like, oh, it's an iron, because I didn't know what it was that was triggering it either. So yes, they were like, I have never seen a miniature iron in someone's luggage before. I'm like, sorry.
First time.
Yeah. I once got my suitcase opened coming back to Canada with 10 cans of spray cheese because they don't sell it. They don't sell it in Canada, and it's Julian's favorite. And the funny look that
they wouldn't let you take it.
No, they let me take it.
Okay, good.
But it's his favorite. One more thing to add. I wish that I just get so finicky about my pedal. I wish all pedals were interchangeable for sewing machines. I would bring my own pedal because it's the position, the way you tap. Like sometimes it's more sensitive than others. It's the pedal where sometimes I get really tripped up on new machines. So I wish you could just BYOP.
Yeah.
BYOP.
I feel the same way actually about cars. I get into a car I'm not familiar with and I'm like, how hard do I have to press on the accelerator or the brake? And it's the exact same thing. It's like, how sensitive is it? If I press as hard as I normally press, is it going to go zoom, or is it going to go, stitch?
Yeah.
And then what's the range of difference? How much harder do I press before it's going zoom and I can't control it?
Yep. So that's a good point.
Wow.
Okay, that didn't resolve my wishful travel bug at all. It has in fact made it worse. So
I have to make some vacation plans.
I know. Me too. All right, well, let's take a little break and then we'll hop back in with some SewJo.
All right, we are back and we are talking about our Sojos. Our Sojos, if you don't know, are what's giving us our sewing mojo this week. So, Amanda, why don't you start us off? What's your Sojo?
My Sojo is things with buttons.
Ooh,
I just
cute.
made a shirt dress / shacket jacket hacket thing, and I'm working on as I mentioned, the sew along skirt for the next round of sew alongs for Sew News, Sew Daily, which also has a little button placket. And y'all can see this behind me, but I'm working on an Aster blouse hack that's going to have buttons. So I don't know if the buttons were the starting place, but definitely something that I noticed I'm just going to be having a lot of fun picking out buttons, which y'all know, it's I love it and I hate it. Yeah. So hard every time.
When you find the right thing, it's so good. But when
it's so good.
But when you know what you want and you can't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Amanda, I know as a button lover, you sew a lot of things with buttons. Have you ever sewn buttons onto a garment, then you make something new and you go, actually, they would look better on this garment, and you take them off the other one? Have you ever done that?
100%.
You have?
Yes.
I knew you would.
I made this a little hack for CME, and it was this denim shirt that it was a ready-to-wear shirt that I bought at the thrift store, and I added an embroidered pocket. And the shirt was too small for me. And I was like, as soon as we are done shooting that shirt, and the buttons were so cool. And so I sadly, the shirt was kind of useless after that. But the buttons were amazing. And I definitely, if I ever, they're on a dress that I transformed into a skirt, all keeping these same buttons. And if I ever decide to get rid of that skirt, I will be taking those buttons with me. Yes, I will.
I love that.
For sure. All right. How about you, Meg? What's your Sojo this week?
Well, mine is inspired by Amanda. She's been wearing this ribbed knit Nico top, and I made two. I made one in like this mustard yellow. And I also made a sleeveless version. I accidentally cut out two turtlenecks. And so it's just one cut unfold, but I cut two unfold for some reason. I think I haven't sewn a Nico in a while, so I just forgot. And so I was like, well, I have to make a whole new Nico top.
Yeah, you do.
But I didn't, I didn't have enough of the mustard green. So I sewed half in mustard yellowish green, and then half in black. And then I did top stitching in the mustardy color. So I have like a tank one. Yeah. So
nice.
Just been making some rib Nikos. And I also have a Berticel jumpsuit cut out and like a leopard print. And I've been doing so much embroidery. We're going to a friend's house tonight. They bought a new house, and I embroidered them a tea towel, and I embroidered my
sweet.
Our new neighbor's tea towels. She's in the baking industry, and she's just baking. So I made her her little like cookie brand on a tea towel, and they have a little puggle. So I made, and so I've just been embroidering for people, and it's
awesome.
been really fun. Yeah. So I just am falling back in love with just like cute little custom embroideries. So
nice.
That's been fun. How about you, Kate? What have you been working on?
Well, I've been commissioned to do some cross stitches, so I've been mostly cross stitching. But today I happened to see an email from Sally Tomato, who has released their first wearable pattern, which is a super cute drapey sequined blouse. And I saw that and I'm like, hello. And now I have to see what my sequin fabric situation looks like, but they also have kits. So there may be a kit in my future.
I just had to look it up. Oh, it's so cute. It's just like this
adorable?
drapey. Is it like a t-shirt or cape type thing? It looks like a loose like t-shirt. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks great for sequins because it doesn't look like it's got a lot of seams. So you don't have to like deal with fancy seams and stuff, but it's super drapey, very glam. I have nowhere to wear it, but I want one anyway.
It's so elegant. I could so see you wearing it, especially in sequins. I think you might need to make it for Sewcation.
Are we having some sort of event I've been hearing pajamas, so I don't know if sequin blouse really is going to fit in there.
Pajamas. You can do
Pajama
it.
bottoms and sequin top.
You could wear it during the live recording. We could all wear sequins.
We should get fancy for that.
We should get fancy.
I'm up for it. Because y'all know we're going to be making like a little travel wardrobe.
Oh, I have so many things on the list.
I'm putting it on the list. I love it.
I may or may not.
Come on, Kate.
We'll see.
You can do it.
Oh.
That was a great episode. I am sitting here and thinking if anything that I'm going to do anytime soon is going to require some travel sewing. Yeah, very inspiring.
Yeah, and lastly, really quick, I just wanted to share and thank all of the activity that's been going on in the comment section of the episodes on sewdaily.com, especially the zero waste sewing. There's some really great comments and just thoughts around zero waste sewing. And I wanted to read one from Sadie Fox Metter, who said that they're easing into the 2022 sewing projects. I had to take a little break from the pre-holiday sewing, crafting, market making, gift making marathon that is November and December for me. My mom introduced me to the kitchen scarf, or kitchen boa, as I've seen some sewers call it. I found lots of tutorials online for this amazing project. It's like an apron, hot pad, towel, wipe, anything and everything all in one accessory. When it is made out of a fun scrap fabric in my stash and an old kitchen towel or thrifted towel, it can also be a great sustainable scrap busting project. So I've made a few now for family and friends. A nice little New Year's Eve or New Year's surprise gift that will be well used and loved all year long. I just love that. And I feel like that could be zero waste too, if it seems like it's a rectangle type thing with squares, if you have excess yardage, and I need one.
Yeah.
And so we'll be more incorporating some more comments, what you have to say about the episodes and things like that in the segment. So we love all the feedback.
Yes.
And
so great
commenting. And
for sure.
Yeah, great conversations.
That was a fun episode. Even though
for sure.
It was.
I want to pack my bags now and go somewhere warm. But I'm super excited about this occasion. If you are interested in joining us in Boulder, there's tons of information online. It's SewDaily.com/events. Let us know if you have any questions. But that is definitely keeping me excited for spring. And also now I'm totally thinking about what I'm going to wear and bring.
Oh,
so now I have to plan.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Well, fun episode, y'all. Thanks so much for chatting with me.
Oh,
Thanks.
yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Happy stitching.
Bye.
For links to everything we talked about in this episode, go to our show notes page at sewdaily.com/sewandtell. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at sewandtellpodcast@goldenpeakmedia.com or visit us on Instagram at sewandtellpod. Answer the Sew and Tell question, tell us your Sojo, or just leave us some feedback. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice, and please leave us a review, ideally a good one, because that helps listeners like you find our podcast. And tell your sewing friends about us too. Thanks for listening, and happy stitching. Sew and Tell is a Sew Daily podcast and produced by Golden Peak Media. It's hosted and produced by Meg Healy, Amanda Carestio, and me, Kate Zaynard. Daisha Clay is our producer. Director of podcasts is Jared Mayer. Tiffany Warble is Director of Content. Kelsey Ratterman handles our marketing, and Andrea Lotz does all things digital. If you'd like more information on sponsoring or advertising on Sew and Tell, go to goldenpeakmedia.com.